Virgin Radio wants to help pay your way. Listen for your chance to win $10,000 every week. Virgin Radio pays your way. Also available on the free iHeartRadio app.
We won't love it. But why in hell can't I get some conservative votes for this? Because are the conservatives now just going to focus on, well, how soon can we end this government and try to force another election? And the other, whale of a story that is yet to come this evening is, will Pierre Poilievre still be leader? Will he hang on to his riding? And how might that affect the management of the parties in a minority parliament? So there's a lot of cards to be played.
And Scott, as you're speaking, we're just getting some results from the westernmost part of the country, from Saanich Gulf Islands, which of course is Elizabeth May's riding, and the CTV News Decision Desk can now tell you that she is keeping her riding of Saanich Gulf Islands. Chuckles from Scott.
Why are you laughing? She held. Come on, there was a competition there.
The whole evening has been a game of 52-card pickup, and she hangs on to her ride, and the NDP are obliterated, and Elizabeth May hangs on.
Let's go live there. Let's take a listen in.
Let's listen in.
My sentiments exactly.
Of the Salish people, of Coast Salish nations, and I want to say from the bottom of my heart, Haishka Siam, Haishka. And I just had a word. I think it's the first time that the Church and State Kitchen has had a phone call from the Prime Minister.
All right, so obviously the audio not that great, but you can tell from her facial expressions that she's jubilant, she's celebrating. Obviously secures her political future to a certain extent. Kathleen, if we can go back to you, speaking of political futures, and speaking of Jagmeet Singh, does he stay or does he go? Because I mean, we've been talking a lot about the NDP and the collapse in their support. To be fair, he was able to advance significant causes in this parliament. What happens to him now?
Yeah. Well, I think there's going to be a lot of reflection, which is the pat answer. But I mean, holding on to incumbents is not a high bar. And certainly party status is a low bar. I think we need to get back to a party that wants power, not just influence, and a party that works for that and represents working people across this country and brings forth social democratic values, because these are the values of Canadians. New Democrats have fought throughout the years for the programs, the social programs that Canadians care most about: pensions, health care, things like dental care. And so there's going to be after some introspection, And I really think that, Jagmeet will go down in the history books. He has done some incredible things in this past parliament, but the party's going to have to look at some serious renewal.
All right. And Scott, I just want to pick up on Chrystia Freeland's comments and just your thoughts on that. What kind of role do you see for her in a Carney government? We know that Donald Trump has used some colorful language to describe her, so not the greatest relationship there. How can you bring unity within these former Liberal leadership contenders? How does Mark Carney do that, and also give her some kind of cabinet role that she'd be happy with?
Look, I actually think it's less challenging than you might think. Chrystia Freeland's very capable. She's a great minister. She's a great Ottawa minister. She's a great boardroom minister, fixing problems, managing government itself and the apparatus of government. I think she's weaker when we see her as a public communicator, someone that's trying to carry and summon public consensus. Just not her strength, even as we saw in that interview, to be honest with you. And so I think, to be blunt, he'll find a place where he can harness her talents in his cabinet. But I don't think, I don't think she's going to be point on the Canada-U.S. file, as an example. I don't think she's going to be point on the energy file.
I think we want to head over to, actually, let's take a look right now where things stand in Pierre Poilievre's riding. You can see 40 of 266 polls reporting it is a close race. 1,500 votes separate right now the Liberal candidate Bruce Fanjoy and Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party. Burnaby Central, here we've got Jagmeet Singh's riding with 39 of 200 polls reporting, and Mr. Singh, the leader of the NDP, right now sitting in third place. Certainly, Omar, if that is solidified and we declare it a loss for Jagmeet Singh, and there is a loss of official party status as well, his future is very much in peril. I would say also another key NDP riding that Kathleen mentioned, Hamilton Centre, Matthew Green, the incumbent NDP candidate, also taking a loss, or at least poised to take a loss there. Let's go over to Heather Wright, who's actually in that riding now. Hey, Heather.
Door to door, street to street, neighborhood to neighborhood. Completing an effort that started...
All right, it looks like Heather Wright is standing by. Heather, can you hear us?
When that happens, it's going to be great. I promise. Yeah.
She will have lots to say when we do reach her finally. But if you're Jagmeet Singh tonight and looking at these numbers, I mean, he's not even trailing. He's in number 3 spot in that riding that he represents. So not great news for him. Hamilton Centre, we can see here that the Liberal has a 37-seat vote lead right now. And I'm being told that we do have Heather Wright with us. Heather, can you hear us now?
We know that elections...
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so tell us what's going on where you are.
In order for our democracy to function,
well, so we're here. I'm just speaking a little quietly because the candidate here, the NDP candidate, Matthew Green, he just arrived. He is going to lose his riding likely here in Hamilton Centre. We've heard from Jagmeet Singh. He was in this area, in these Ontario ridings throughout the closing days of this campaign, trying to hold on to these seats, telling his supporters to hold the line here. But this, along with a number of other NDP seats here in Southern Ontario, look like they will be flipping. And so we're hearing from Matthew Green now. He is speaking to his supporters who a little while ago said it felt like a funeral here. And so this, again, is part of that broader story of the NDP collapse here in Ontario and in other ridings across the country.
Tomorrow we wake up, this country will be a different place.
All right, thank you so much. This is a huge upset just following along this storyline of NDP losses. Nikki Ashton, a really long-time NDP MP in the Manitoba riding of Churchill, taking a loss to her Liberal competitor, Rebecca Chartrand. That is a significant loss. When I had spoken to people in the NDP campaign, they thought that that was potentially a pretty safe seat for them, so that's a big deal. Another big upset for the NDP over in Edmonton, one of those sort of central Edmonton, downtown Edmonton ridings, which has gone NDP at times, including in the last election, now flipping to Kerry Diot, who ran for mayor, I believe, also sat as an MP at some point. Pretty well-known conservative figure in Edmonton, Omar, but a big hit for the NDP there as well.
And official party status is significant. I mean, the NDP sitting right now, again, just right now at 8 seats, official party status is 12. It's not just a fancy title. I mean, this
comes with resources,
budgets, money, exactly, and significantly increases a party's ability to advance their causes, public discourse, that sort of thing. So it's not just a title. It does carry some weight to it, and that's why it is important to reach at least that 12-seat threshold in whatever parliament you happen to be in.
One piece of quick good news for them. In this long tail now of bad news, Alexandre Belouris re-elected to their lone seat in Quebec. We were just able to declare.
That's great news for them. I believe we have Colton Prail right now, if I'm not mistaken. All right, Colton Prail standing by. Tell us, Colton, where you are and what you're hearing.
Yeah, Omar, I'm in the Conservative HQ here, and the reactions tonight have been stark. We've seen intense anger, especially when we called the result, before we even had a minority or majority. But since then, that emotion has quelled, and it's turned into this level of disbelief. The number of supporters that I've talked to here that are stunned that they find themselves in what they feel like is essentially the same situation they were in 5 weeks ago is significant. And in some cases, that disbelief is literal. When we saw the closing of those polling numbers, of those result numbers, when they were both in the 50s, for example, there were chants of bring it home here. There were supporters who, despite us having called the results, genuinely still believed that this was up for grabs and that this was still available to them. That has subsided a little bit here, but what we're left with is massive questions around the future of the party. Everyone I speak to still says they feel like Pierre Poilievre is the leader for the Conservatives, and they have their faith behind him. But at the same time, they're looking at the results coming in Carleton, and again, wondering how they can be in such a tight race. It's been an array of emotions throughout the night. The party officials who I've spoke to have had a very different reaction, and I think it is important to highlight they feel good. I mean, this is obviously not the result that they were looking for, but they are proud of the campaign they run, and I think that speaks to why this level of disbelief is here. So many of these people were at the rallies, they were surrounded by thousands of other supporters, and they're just having a hard time grasping how what they experienced there could translate into the results they're seeing tonight.
Every single person in that room right now, Colton, is going to be watching to see what happens with Pierre Poilievre in his home riding of Carleton.
Yeah, edge of your seat stuff. We want to return to that story of the NDP suffering some really significant losses that puts their status as an official party in jeopardy. Jagmeet Singh now in third position in Burnaby Central. His riding, we're waiting to see conclusively what happens there, but it's not looking good for the leader of the NDP. Let's head over to Burnaby, where we find our Judy Trin. She is reporting from the NDP headquarters this evening. Judy, what is the mood there right now? How are they internalizing what we are seeing in the form of these results?
Vashi, they are trying to remain upbeat. As you can hear behind me, they are trying to cheer for any positive result that has come in that they see on the board. But let's face it, in Burnaby right now, Jagmeet Singh is polling third. He is far behind the Liberal candidate as well as the Conservative candidate. It's important to point out that these are two relative unknowns. He was the incumbent, he had the brand recognition, and he is in third place at this point. What I can tell you and what I think is the story is this collapse of the NDP in Ontario. And what is interesting to me is when you look at where the votes are going, where are the NDP votes going, right? Specifically in Southwest Ontario. What is interesting is that in London as well as in Windsor, those seats, those NDP seats went to Conservative candidates. And I want to give our viewers a little bit of context. Pierre Poilievre was the last leader to visit Windsor. He actually visited Windsor, but his time on April 11th. But his timing may have been perfect in regards to speaking to the constituents there. He visited Windsor on April 11th. That was the day that the GM plant, electric vehicle plant, CAMI, announced that it was going to go under a partial shutdown, a temporary shutdown. They said it wasn't related to the tariffs, but it was related to declining sales. So once again, he was in that region espousing his message while Mark Carney was in Ottawa, while Jagmeet Singh was also in Ottawa at the time. So whether or not, even despite being the last leader to visit this automotive heartland, the manufacturing heartland of Canada, whether or not he was able to speak most directly to the people. And I think that also the other story that just sticks out for me is that the NDP really wanted to talk about the fact that they were endorsed by so many unions, the most unions of any party, despite the fact that Liberals and the Conservatives were actively courting. Unions that represented more than 1 million workers. But those unions, those unionized workers may not have showed up for them at the polls. Vashi, Omar.
All right, thank you so much, Judy. A lot of different results coming in British Columbia. We're seeing some significant pickups for the Conservatives, but also for the Liberals, all of it at the expense of the NDP. A lot to watch there. It's a very dynamic situation, and it's going to inform where those numbers at the bottom of your screen actually end up over the course of the evening.
Let's get to Heather Butts. She's been tracking the context in all of this, looking at the people behind the numbers. And Heather, what can you tell us?
Well, Omar, we're actually going to pick up on what my colleague Judy Trin was just talking about there, and that is the NDP and how they ended up losing so many votes and where those votes went to. So, Nick, we're going to talk about vote efficiency. What does that mean for our audience?
Well, you have to think of it this way, Heather. The thing is there's popular support, and the thing is that the number of seats you can generate with the votes that you have, the more efficient that you are, the more likely you are to win an election. In this particular campaign, those smaller parties, the NDP and the Bloc, just have been crushed.